Tim. My name is Tim. And Tim, are you married? No, I am not married. Okay, then. So you're not married. But are you currently in a relationship with anyone? Huh? So I take that to mean that you are. You don't have to lie to me. Fine. Yes, I have a woman. But I make enough money to take care of both you and her. Lacresha, we made it to chapter 4, normal dog behavior. So now in this chapter, Dolores, who is down at this restaurant called Zio's, is waiting on her girls, Brittany and Sabria. And so while she's waiting, this guy named Tim slides into her booth and he makes this indecent proposal. He tells her that he has a woman at home, but he makes enough money to take care of both of them. Now, this situation actually happened to one of my girlfriends. She was at the gym, and while she was working out, this guy walked up to her and he told her, he said, "Look, I'm gonna be straight up with you. I like you, you fine, but I do got a woman at home. I got kids, and I don't want to leave her. But I make enough money to take care of both of y'all." And so she went bananas. And I ain't gonna lie, she called me like right after she left the gym. She called me and she told me what happened. And I bust out laughing. Now, I don't think she was too happy with me. But what I told her was that honestly, even though it was, disrespectful, at least he was straight up with you. And then you got the chance to make the decision instead of him stringing you along. So, Lucretia, I want to ask you, have you ever been bogusly approached by a guy?
Yes, many of times I've been bogusly approached by a guy. One time there was a guy I was going through my separation, my divorce, and I knew he had a girlfriend, but we all kind of just knew each other and things like that. But he pretty much asked me, "Well, how long do I have you before you go back to your husband?" And at the time I was like, "I'm not going back to him. What are you talking about?" He was like, "Well, how long do I have you before you go back to him? Like we can hang out." So at the time, it was it was I was in a vulnerable spot, and I was either gonna go with it or not. And at the time, I went with it, which I mean, all of it makes up for being a better person and not being too vulnerable. But yes, that's one of many times that I've been bogusly approached. I've had somebody else tell me, "I'll take care of you. Um, nobody has to know, and they'll buy everything in my house when you move." And no, no, thank you. So yes, many a times.
Well, I can only recall 2 times really, but it was, one time, it was he was like I guess he was a friend of the family, yeah. But it was at that point where I realized, okay, my marriage this is dysfunctional, it's toxic. So I was telling him what was going on, and then he was telling me what was going on in his marriage. And then he's told me, he was like, well, it sound like you miserable and I'm miserable. Let's make each other happy. And I was like, wait, hold up. That's not why I'm telling you this. So I was like, no. um, and then it was the other time was I was at it used to be it was called Bally's. I don't know what it's called today, but it was I was working out and I was walking around the track to warm up, and I had saw this guy, and it was obvious he wasn't there to work out. He was there scouting. He kind of reminded me of Cat Williams. I'm not even gonna lie. So I was like, he must be a pimp. So just as I was walking around, just like he must be a pimp. He had his hair was permed, and he had his curls, little body curls, and he was dressed up. So I got on this machine where it was working your abs. So you kind of lay on it and put your knees up a little bit. So I'm working out, and then he ended up sitting on another one like it next to me. So right away I looked over and he started like looking me up and down real fast and talking in riddles. So it was confirmed. No, he is literally a pimp trying to pick me up. So I dropped the weights behind me, sat up, and I'm cracking up laughing. So I like immediately got up and just walked away. So he was trying to solicit me to be one of his hoes.
The fact that he did a riddle, like,
Yeah, but you know how they talk in riddles. And I actually have a brother. He's in prison right now, but he used to be a pimp. And so I was, one day asking him, how is you picking up these girls? And so that's why I ended up laughing because I was telling my brother, like, you really get girls like that. And so he was telling me like he prey on their insecurities. And so like what he does is he'll have a conversation with them and kind of like fish for stuff. And so I knew that was what this guy was doing because I had told my brother I'd never fall for something like that. So when the guy was talking to me or saying that or speaking in riddles, I knew what he was doing, and so I was laughing. So I know I insulted him, but he just got up and walked away. So those were the only two times, but yeah.
my brother is actually in jail right now, but for other reasons. But he caught himself being a pimp, and they prey on the girls that are weak, and but he will get like this is the craziest thing I've seen him do was there was a girl, no, two. One of them didn't one of the girls was really pretty. I kind of remember her being really pretty. She had one leg. So how he got her, I don't know. And then he got another girl. She was beautiful, but she was deaf. And he used to scream at her. I'm like, that's not how you communicate with a deaf person. He used to be like, she said, I'm like, that's not how you communicate with
Aw.
them. He was so terrible, but he used to get money off the girls. He preyed on them. So I understand, but he did a lot of girls like that. He had like chunkier girls, and he would get them to like him because he's funny, his personality. He'll take care of you. He'll um like what you need like that, but it was all a game for him. So I have one of them too. Yeah.
Okay, so this next question I want to ask you. Have you ever lowered your standards so low for a guy that it surprised you when he either cheated on you or left you for someone else?
Oh, um, yes. Whew. Um, yes. So there was a situation where um you go through moments and times where you leave one relationship and go into another one. And this particular time, um, nothing about him was anything that I would typically deal with or be with. But I've lowered my standards like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should. I don't know. I can't judge him based off of, things that he's presenting. Um, he was he was like in the streets. He was really cute, but he was in the streets. He was like a well-known like drug dealer. And I was refusing to be his girlfriend. I'm like, no. But it was nice to conversate, communicate, and all those things. And we were friends for over time. But then it was just he was everything that I would not have went for. But it was nice to have the attention.
Okay.
Um, and I brought him around, and he started to like quote unquote change. Um, but he didn't like. He started to come to church with me. He started to do a lot of things that was like, this is not you. But not only did he cheat, um, he stole my rent money.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was like doing drugs. Like I had moved him in my house. It was terrible. I don't know what I was thinking. But it didn't last long. I moved him in my house because we were friends, and I thought we were taking the next step. But it was, well, he was somebody I liked, that he wasn't going to be my friend. But I lowered my standards because I would have never dated him. But I was like, I can't judge you based off of your past and this and
Mhm.
that. But you like stole my money. I would get up in the middle of the night and he would be gone in my car, and I'm calling him like, "Where you at?" And this, no, it wouldn't be my car. I'm sorry. He'll be gone, and he would have got picked up. But you were like doing drugs, and then you like a few months into, not even a few months of us not dating anymore, another girl was pregnant, and I was like, what was I thinking? So yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I would have to say I came close to lowering my standards because I used to have that sympathy. Well, he's nice. I used to do that a lot. But I think maybe it was God protecting me. I remember this one guy. um, I tried. I just couldn't. I just couldn't. And this sounds really shallow, but every time he would come near me, like it would be cool when we would be talking and joking, but when he would try to get like close and intimate with me, looking at him reminded me of a shark. And I just couldn't bring myself. I felt like running because I felt like I was being attacked by jaws. But it was
Oh my.
so I was trying to consider it because he was a nice person, but I couldn't bring myself to it. It was even a time we were at the movies, and and I was you feeling the like passion. But girl, even in the movies, when I turned and the light hit a certain way, I just couldn't kiss him. I couldn't, I just couldn't. So I ended up just cutting it off. But I had I was like really close to doing it a lot of times, but um I would have to say I didn't lower it that low.
Yeah,
Where I
yeah,
was like, wow, I just really shouldn't have
yeah.
that
I
bad.
think
Yeah.
just going through that process, you I I guess it'll be another, the reason behind it is because my standards was low. I didn't think well of myself. So, but that's another story. When you don't think that you're worthy of something, you then tend to say, well, I'm not in a great spot, or I'm not, this person that, I'm a mom of three, I'm single, who would really want to be with me that's of stature? So you kind of think like, well, I know I'm a good woman, so I can't judge this person because he may be a good man, but only to be like, really? And I gave you a shot. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I mean, because I felt low of myself, but like I said, to lower, I've seen some women low, really lower, and it's like, now you shouldn't have been with him at all. There was nothing there that said anything, because we do compromise,
You do.
but sometimes women just totally compromise. I mean, I would even say I watched the Whitney movie last
Okay.
night, Whitney Houston, and even just that, kind of seeing, because girl, I can't just watch a movie without getting a revelation, but just seeing how you can tell she really lowered her standard, and especially when she saw him with that, having sex with that one lady. Did you see the show? Did you see the
Yeah.
movie? Oh, you didn't? Okay. And I was like, she should have left then. And just, we know Whitney and Bobby's, at least the overview of their story, how in the end it was tragic, but you can tell she did that. She lowered her standard so low, and she had people there telling her like, no, he's not good for you. But it was something about, she told this story that she told him that she had this friend she was always teased, I guess, when she was a little girl, and
Hmm.
she had problems picking people in relationships. And so she wasn't sure, and her friend told her, go with your heart. And, we know in the word that our heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. So, that wasn't, I mean, her friend was giving her the advice that she had, the best advice she could. But that definitely was not the good advice, the best advice she should have gave her. So anyway, this next one. Why do you think Hazel-eyed Tim felt comfortable with approaching Dolores that way? I mean, Dolores, she to me, she did all she could do. She asked the right questions. She asked him, did he have a woman? Was he living with somebody? Why do you think he pushed past all of her questions and approached her that way?
Um, Reading the story, I would say, or just over a general view, when you feed into the conversation of the man, even little flirtatious, that's the door being open, where he feels like, okay, well, there's some chemistry here, or haha, let's joke, or I'm showing interest even if it's a conversation and it's not going anywhere. Let me push past it and see. And then men tend to men tend to think that if I get a little smile or a batted eye or a compliment, that's a door open for everything. Not saying all men, but that's not true all the time. His comfort could have come from maybe the small conversations they had and her asking the questions, or it could have been he's seen this before and he's pushed past it before and he's bold to say, okay, well, I have the statue, I have the money, I have everything a woman is looking for.
Mm.
And to the blinded eye, I have everything that they're looking for. So why wouldn't you want me? And it's like, huh? So you think because you have all of the material things that you can bypass all the other things that may come with it. Okay, I understand that you come with all these great accolades, but that doesn't make up your personality. That doesn't make up you being a great man. So I think it could have been one of those things.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Pretty much what you were saying, his ego. His ego. He had his boys watching. Remember, his boys are,
Right.
she didn't know that until the end, but his boys was watching. And so a lot of times, that's why I'm real careful about giggling too quick. We got to stop giggling so fast. We got to figure out, why is he here?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was just there because he probably had a bet with his boys saying, I'm gonna go get this chick. And so that's why it was. So a lot of times we think because a guy is persistent, that means he really likes me. But no,
Right.
if he has a woman and he's just meeting you and he's telling you, I got a woman, he don't really care about her anyway, either. It's more about him. It's more about his ego, him feeding whatever he's trying to do, whether it's, to prove something to his boys and make him look bigger than what he is. But it was really his ego. um and anytime, a guy is doing something in his name, the name of his ego, the goal is to win.
Yeah.
You think of guys play a lot of games, and the objective is to win. So we really do. We have to stop. We have to start making sure this guy is here for us, here for the right reasons before we start, you know, going into that little world of make believe, like, oh, he really likes you. No, but he don't know you yet, so let him get to know you and get to know him before you start giggling. And I believe this is why it's important for us to know ourselves too, because I do this because I know, for one, when I have given my heart over to somebody, I'm settled there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I have to be careful um, before I just accept things. So I do ask these questions because I know me. And so when you know you have okay, I have a tendency to fall easy. You need to put boundaries in. And Dolores had it. It's clear that she has done some work on herself, and at least reflection, because she asked those questions, but he was still persistent in pushing past that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed in the chapter how she was saying, okay, I'm doing it. I'm getting all mushy. I don't know him yet. Let me ask these questions, because she had an experience that left her in a pretty bad state some years prior. And two, I like to kind of get guys in a friend zone, like real comfortable. So if a guy is trying to holler at me, I'm like, okay, he's showing interest, but let me not go to the questions about relationships. Like, okay, well, what I try to get them in a friend zone. So I'll get them in just like a general conversation. And just recently I was working on my house, and this guy, I had hired a contractor. This is kind of funny, but I hired this contractor and he hired somebody to help him.
Okay.
Guy walks in, and then he's working. He's like, oh yeah, I like what you're doing around here. So he trying to holler at me. So now I'm thinking, okay, we still kind of in at the end of the pandemic. He probably saw like I got an extra bedroom. I don't know, why he trying to holler at me. But we're gonna talk about relationships or talk about this or talk about that. So I got him in that conversation zone. And so he like, okay, well, let me ask you this. See, I'm talking to this one girl, right? And then he looked at me and I looked at him. And that's all I needed. So you get what I'm saying? He told on himself because I kept him in the friend zone and just had a regular conversation with him. And he told on himself. So a lot of times when we're giving guys that, oh, I like you, they got that guard up now. And so
Yeah.
now they're on the hunt and you can't get them comfortable. So then they can string you along for years before you find that bit of information out.
Yeah.
So just calming down and not and realizing just because he's persistent doesn't mean that he likes me. He doesn't even know me.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay, this next question. So why do you think men play games with women?
I think, like you said before, I think it's all about the chase. Of course, I think it's just from my experience, not knowing a man's brain, but having male friends, um, it's about the chase. It's about how can I get this person, and the male ego, and about they society tells a man, oh, you're a player, you're this, you're that, when you can have so many women. Um, Being faithful or loving one woman or liking one girl is like, oh, that's lame. That's this, that's that. So they kind of are thrown into a box of, well, I guess the more women, the more popular. The more women, it's like, and it starts. I would say, I mean, I've had people tell me it starts in middle school. Like these men, these young boys are seeing that this is the way that you should get a woman or a young lady. And instead of having the male figure tell them, like, no, that's not the right way or whatever, they're bigging up you having multiple women. So then men turn into that. Some men I personally know was faithful, but they got hurt. So now it's like, I'm going to play with you. I'm going to play with every person because I gave my heart to this particular girl or whatever, and she hurt me, and I'm never going to let somebody do that to me again. So I think once they learn that they are men and that's an option, and women actually go for that, or society tells them that this is okay, it's so many things around them, around the world, that's telling people not to be faithful, not
Yeah.
to be with one woman, to have multiple relationships, and to think that it's cool and okay for women to fight over you. It's already the dominance of a male driven world. And then even in the animal kingdom, they're gonna hunt. So it's like you have natural desire to be, but then it's just, I think it's them going against their nature. Their nature is to be with one, more than one person. So I think it starts there.
Yeah, you definitely said you covered a lot. I think young boys start out because, and I remember because I was over the Boy Scouts, so I remember this one scout. He used to like my niece. She's very pretty, and he liked my niece, and he was being kind of weird about it, and so she was telling me that, and I pulled her to the side and I said, "Sweetheart, actually, men learn how to deal with women. We teach them how to deal with us." And so I said, go and tell him that what he's doing is creepy. So she did. She just said, if you like me, just tell me. But don't sniff my hair, like that makes me feel uncomfortable. So I think they start out like giving their heart and
Mm-hmm.
then they get hurt,
Yeah.
and then so they kind of go into that, okay, I'm gonna try to do it like the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then sometimes it's because they want acceptance from their boys.
Mm-hmm.
And if they haven't dealt with that in a middle school, elementary, middle school, high school, they're still doing it as grown men. Um,
Exactly.
it's a way to make them feel more powerful because they may have felt weak, when they did give their heart to this girl when they were vulnerable and didn't know no better and handed it off to somebody who couldn't handle their heart right. Um,
Right.
and so it's part of that is too the need to control. So yeah, I think you covered a lot. But what you said was that it's their nature. So Ecclesiastes 3:18 says this. All right, well, King David's son Solomon said, God tests the mankind so that they can see that they're like animals. Let me read that again. King
Yes.
David's son Solomon said, God tests the mankind so that they can see that they're like animals. Back in the day, when I think I was in middle school, we used to go skating like every weekend at this place called the Palace. And there's certain skating or songs that come on that kind of get you hyped where everybody get on the floor to skate. And so it was this song called The Atomic Dog. And it went, why must I be like that? Why must I chase the cat? Nothing but the dog in me. So anytime, and I'm a ponderer. So I would always like literally see a dog chasing a cat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you think of how when a dog would chase a cat, like see a cat and just go after it and won't even see danger around them. And so instinct, they just react on instinct and they don't realize how they can hurt themselves or hurt
Yeah.
people around them. And so whoever we who is Tim was operating out of a dog-like spirit. And I always like kind of also wondered like what actually happened in the garden when Adam and Eve ate that apple. Like what happened
Yeah.
that made them change like that?
Mm-hmm.
It was because whoever we follow, we take after their spirit.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Just
good.
kind of
That's
go with me.
good.
So before they were had shame, they had the spirit of God, and so they thought with their minds. They didn't let their emotions control them. But when they obeyed or followed after the serpent, who's an animal, a snake, they
Right.
took on an animal-like spirit.
Mm. Okay. That's good.
Okay? So animals act off of instinct. And so they feel and then they just do. So this is why it's important for us when we're praying for husbands and when husbands are praying for wives that we're filled with the spirit of God.
Good.
Because thinking with our minds and we're not letting ourselves be controlled by our emotions and we're not acting on instinct because when you act on instinct, you either hurt
Yeah.
yourself or you hurt other people. This next one, why do women get played?
I believe women get played because of the lack of who they are. Who do you um the first there's many layers to that question. I initially think that women get played because the vulnerability of all things that they've done. I've been in that vulnerable place. And you just want to believe that somebody is not who they're showing they are. And just not knowing who you are. When you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want, what you truly need, and what you want when you haven't taken that time to truly learn yourself. Some women does, and then again, it goes back to what they see. They could grow up seeing their mom or their dad accept these things, and this is a normal behavior. And you think, oh, well, me, oh, he liked me or she likes me. Like my mom dealt with that, and my dad did this, or her boyfriend did this, or his girlfriend did this. Like you grow up thinking that this is a normal thing. And then also just a society. again, going back to society, um, reality TV, which I'm so guilty of watching, lets you think that women who get played, it's okay. This is all a part of it because he loves me, he takes care of me, he's
Yeah.
fighting, doing all these things, and I'm accepting it because I'm number one. And it's like, no, you should be the only one, not
Yeah.
number one. And they take on these, we as people watching, the consumers, have so many age ranges that we're watching it that we don't realize that we're consuming something that's so toxic for our life.
Yeah.
Why do we think, oh, I'm number one, and now we're in our brain is saying, oh, I'm number one, and it's like, no, that's not how it should be. It should be, I am the only one,
Yeah.
and I think it's just a warping of our mind until we actually again learn who we are, around our environments and then around society. It's just so easy to get sucked in as a woman to think that, oh, this is normal, this is what it should be, or maybe nobody ever taught me that this is wrong. But actually taking that time, and as a teenager, you don't know what you want if you starting there,
Mm-mm.
going through life, experiencing life. Like I tell my girls, travel the world, do different things, see life on the other side, and then decide later, do I, want a relationship after you've seen everything and you know enough of yourself, the things you like and things you enjoy, things you don't like, then decide
Yeah.
desire in a relationship.
Yeah. And I would say not willing to be honest with herself.
Yeah,
She doesn't know her weaknesses, or she doesn't acknowledge her weaknesses or what she normally falls for. Like me, I know I am a sucker for a sweetheart.
yeah,
Careful, like, oh, he's nice, girl. Um so but just because I know that about myself, like I said, I have to put some boundaries in there, like, okay, Sheree, don't let your heart get carried away.
uh,
And we do that quite often. We hook onto one part and then we start making this world up in our head. Um, I well, we get into the land of make believe,
yeah. Oh,
and we want to stay there.
I lived there for quite a while, so I understand.
Yeah, and then two, because she simply women get played because they simply don't want to believe the truth. They don't. And I would say that even stems from the women's ego. You
Yeah,
have like I always wondered like, okay, I can see if you being attracted to well, I can't really, but because I've never done it. I'm when it's somebody else's man, I don't mess with other people's men.
yeah,
But I always kind of wonder like why would a woman for one mess around with a married man? Um, and then why would she stay with a man who's married for years?
yeah,
And it's kind of like the same thing with Tim, all about trying to win. She thinks she's the better woman. I mean, you got to think about that. Why would I stay? He got me
yeah,
on lockdown for 3, 4, 5 years. I know he's going home to his wife. I know he's going home to his family, and I'm going home by myself. She thinks she's better than that woman,
yeah.
and that she has enough to take him and win him over. So it's
Right.
that women's ego too when we're doing that. We think we're better than the other woman.
We think we have something up them or above them, and oh well. Again, I've heard society, and I don't know anybody personally. If I do, I can't really think about it. Where, oh, she deals with the problems, and I get all the luxury, or
Oh,
he spends time with me. He takes me places. He buys me things. He does all these things. For him actually being a man, or showing you off and doing all these things and actually loving you, oh, that's he can leave that for her. And it's like, no, like you're actually being parade. You're a secret. You're being
mm,
paraded um, around people who don't know him, who don't know his intentions, or you're not. You're living, like I said, in a fairy tale world. You're looking at what he brings to the table. I believe, I don't know honestly. Um, this is my assumption of just seeing life. People assume that the better, like, well, I'll accept all of this because of everything that comes with him. Um, the money, the cars, the the fancy things, the um, well, he a baller, and or it's just, it's terrible. It's very terrible. But that's how it seems like it is. It seems like that is part of the reason.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Some women get played because uh to sum that up, because of what they value. They
Yeah,
value money, they value car, that they value shopping on Rodeo Drive,
right.
stuff like that over the man's character. Now, with Kevin Samuels and his high value man
Yeah.
spiel, I was actually just really shocked that he had so many women calling and getting advice from him. I really was.
Wow.
But and then he would just diss them. So it's like, why do we keep calling trying to get advice from this guy? And unfortunately, there was a situation where they in the news there was this high value guy. He had the look, the look where the tailored suit, the cell phone by the expensive car. And this joker raped his 10-month daughter
What?
to death.
Really?
But he was deemed a high value man because he had the look and he had the money. So, do you think the woman who had the baby by him, do you think all the money he had, all the shopping trips that he may have allowed her or afforded her was worth it? No matter what a man has, it doesn't negate his character.
Right.
And just because a man has money does not mean that he doesn't have a sickness.
Right.
And there's no amount of money that would bring that 10-month baby back. And if she was a mother who really cared, that is very traumatic to know that you thought because he had money, he was healthy, he was responsible enough or trustworthy enough to be trust for me to trust him with our baby, and he raped the baby, and the baby, like, he raped her to death. So we get played, we become traumatized because we focus on things that are not really valuable. Because I can't even imagine. When I heard that story, I was like, oh my God, high value has nothing to do with what you have. It is your character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my message is that we need to change what we value. We really do. We really do. Um, and then I want to go here too for women, because I mean, I've literally sat back and watched this, where I would see a man, and I know because it's easy for me to kind of discern game. Just watching a guy, like, he totally playing her and she just eating it up. But we got to get stronger as women, and really know, just because a man is persistent, his persistent sniffing does not mean that he has a healthy interest and that he's really trying to get to know you for the right reason. So I don't know, girl. What do you think we need to start out with that?
Um,
With
I
women
think
like that who just fall so easy for, like, a man, just he can walk right up to her and she giggling in 5 seconds.
yeah, I think it definitely starts with evaluating who you are on the inside. I was that girl who, when you flirt, I flirt back. And I used to be like, you know, but I think it stems from the lack of confidence, the lack of confidence that you have. It stems from the lack of any attention is okay. I
Uh,
think we're really looking at, who am I? What makes me me? Um, why do I get giggly or excited or this? Why can any person just say anything or come up to me any kind of way and I think this is okay, um, I think it really starts with a heart check. It
Yeah.
starts looking at yourself in the mirror and really saying, do I'm not perfect, but do I deserve true love? Do I deserve true happiness from a guy? And if so, what does that look like? And really evaluating what that looks like for you. Um, the things that you would want in a guy, and then the things that you would not want in a guy. And actually sticking to that, actually having healthy boundaries and healthy conversations, and actually giving the person time to show themselves. Um, Even when it comes to being celibate, or even when it comes to not giving your body so quickly to somebody, and seeing if they really care about you, and if they do, they'll show it. So, and actually, I mean, I would say even praying about it, really, like, God help me not to just continue to fall in the craziness of it all. Um, and no, and giving ourselves grace, because we're not going to be perfect every time. We're going to be like, I
Yeah.
thought, so give myself grace to say, man, I thought he was it. Okay, well, let me heal myself, or allow God to heal me and really process this relationship or situation or whatever, and really taking that time to know yourself as a person. So I think it really starts with realistically looking at yourself. And the steps, I would say, journaling. Um, Everybody say, oh, therapist, if you can't afford a therapist, journal.
Yeah.
Write something down. People say affirmations are good. I don't really do affirmation. I really just look at the scriptures, but that's just my personal thing. Um, just really taking the time out and crying it out, letting yourself know this affected me.
Yeah.
I feel bad. What was I thinking? But God, I thank you, because even in that choice, I know that you still love me, and continue to love myself and not beat myself up, because I went through a phase where I just beat myself up and said, yep, I'm the problem. Yep, I'm the problem. And stop speaking negative words over your life. Really look at your life and say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. God chose me before the foundation of the world. He has a purpose for my life. I may not have made the right choice, but He said all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and that are called according to His purpose. Looking at myself and saying, there's a reason for all of these things. His son died on the cross for me. He died for sinners. He's closer to the brokenhearted. So you're just rehearsing scripture, and you're rehearsing, like, God, I'm so I may, in the flesh, may not be I may not know all things in my flesh, but God, you are spirit. And if I continue to worship you in spirit and in truth, you're gonna guide my life. So I think just really starting at that deep look at who you are. It's ugly sometimes, but really doing that.
Yeah, taking the work to you, but you have to want to. Honestly, you have to want to. And I would even go another further to say that we need to get back to mentoring, because if you start
Yeah.
young, I think I know a lot of these young ladies are kind of growing up without mentors,
Yes.
and their mothers are still distracted with trying to go after men, and so they're watching them from afar and trying to figure it out. But we need like sound. I know we need to go to our reach out to our young girls and show them certain things before they get to the place where they're in this cycle,
Yeah.
for sure. um and because honestly, when my kids were growing up, my daughter, she was, when she got in high school, she wanted to date, and I actually told them they couldn't date until they were 17 and a half. Well, 18, but it ended up being 17 and a half. And so some of my family members, they thought that was unfair, but I told them that I was getting my life back and my kids need to focus on what they're gonna do, because they didn't have that kind of mama that was gonna let them lay on her couch. So my daughter, we had an issue because she wanted to date this guy, and I was like, no. um he has to wait, and he actually did. He waited until she was 17 and a half, and they dated.
Okay.
My son, on the other hand, didn't care. But do you know why?
Why?
But because he necessarily didn't have to have a girlfriend, to have fun, if you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
yeah,
So that's why I said we have to reach our young girls because they're also joining the hump crew. What
yeah.
they don't understand is that they get stuck with the litter.
That's very true.
Yeah, so we have to, and it's
Yep,
not, like that 5-10 minutes may be a pleasure. You stuck with kids for 18, and you a kid yourself,
very
and then
much.
you're on this pattern because nobody has mentored you to say, hey, this is how you get off. And the reason why you need to get off is because you're going to keep ending up like this, and you're going to be on your fifth kid
Right.
revelation. And so we don't want you to get to five. Let's stop at one or maybe two.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So um, I think mentorship, we need to bring that back. So maybe this is the same kind of question, but how do we keep from getting played? How do you think we can keep from getting played?
Um, it definitely is around the same. Um, Having accountability partners, mentorships, starting young, and learning from our mistakes because it is unfortunately is going to happen. Male and female, but actually learning from it and taking the responsibility and say, I don't want to do this anymore, or taking that whatever that negative thing was getting played and actually not internalizing it as you're the problem, but like,
Hmm.
hey, we were young, or he wasn't ready, I wasn't ready. But as women, I think we should take accountability for our part and
Hmm.
whatever that looks like, and further from getting played, because I think it's like I said, it's going to be a natural thing. Keep growing through the process and not accepting anything, but that stems from, again, knowing who you are and knowing what you represent and knowing what makes you you, um, to not get played and to don't base your life, especially nowadays, off of social media relationships. We don't know what these people are doing at home. We don't
Yeah.
know. We can't look at pictures and say, "Oh my God, um, oh vacation or flowers. He bought me this. He bought me that." What is your life? What does that look like for you? Everything doesn't consume around a man either. It's one thing to enjoy a man's company. It's one thing to enjoy all of that thing, but your life should not be consumed with, oh my God, I need a boyfriend, or I need this. I can speak from a woman who did it, so I wouldn't recommend it. So I definitely think not getting played, actually finding time with yourself, loving yourself, and knowing healthy boundaries and knowing what you desire and what you need, and not looking at other people's social media's account or their life, because I personally know a marriage that I actually know two where you would think that these people are so happy.
Hmm.
One of them, the woman loves the image, so she puts on for her husband.
Hmm.
Like she kind of like build a man, real real life, and it looks good. He's very well put together because of her. And oh my God, like you make social media, you go to his page to post about yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. So I personally know. Then I know another where they're married, but there's no communication, there's no intimacy, and there's no relationship, but y'all are still married. And then to the outside world, every now and again, y'all may do something and y'all be together. And it's like, y'all been married almost 10 years and you're not happy. But it's like, well, he pays the bills, or I can't say nothing, and it's like I don't want that type of relationship or
Oh, no.
yeah,
I
like
don't either. Mm-mm.
yeah. So
Well, I would say you kind of hit on it too. One of the ways that we can prevent from getting played is to have a vision, like to have a real thought out vision. Like, how do you want your life to be? You know, like, right, I actually have a vision book what I
okay,
wrote down, like, this is the characteristics of my husband. This is the life I would like us to have, where it's full of laughter and, joy, fun, family, just getting a vision. Because it's like, it's the foundation. Like, before I go out looking for something, let me make sure I don't want to just be going with the flow. Let me make sure before I start, so I have something to compare to. I can write down like what would life a good life look for me.
yeah,
And when I'm with the guy, I can see if he fits in it or not. And that's pretty much what I do because because I know what God called me to do.
yeah,
I know I'm not that traditional wife anymore. I did that. I have done, was that I was, we worked, came home, cooked, cleaned, all of that. But not that I'm not going to still do that. But
right.
that's not my life like that. He's called me to, other things.
Mhm.
And so I know I can't have a guy who's looking for the traditional wife. Otherwise, I will be miserable. I want to get outside the house. I don't want a guy who's sitting on the couch every weekend scratching his balls. You know,
Right, right,
so knowing if you sit down and have this vision, then when you get out there, oh, we don't, because lifestyle really is the biggest thing. It's not really sex. It's not like even gifts. It's lifestyle. You only spend like 5% of the time, your time together having sex. The other
yeah,
95% of the time is living together, paying bills, finance, all of that stuff. And so you have to make sure you have an interest of having the same lifestyle. So I think we need to start out with our vision, write the vision, make it plain.
right,
Um, and then going back to making it your business to really get to know the guy that you're giving your attention to and not giggling too quick, because we always everybody nobody like just comes out of the bat just showing you their bad parts.
right,
And
right,
so, like I said, that's why my approach is like, let's talk first. I would tell a guy in a minute, I don't date for sport. Let's talk because I understand that principle in the word that says, where your treasure is, so will your heart be.
right.
So when a guy is investing in you, when he's taking you out, when he's spending his money, that is an investment. And I don't want nobody that I'm not sure about investing in me yet, just in case I want to walk away. So
Exactly.
first we have a conversation to make sure, okay, is this safe? And if I ever feel safe, which I've only really kind of been out on very few dates, I think 3 or 4, since I've been single. Because of that, I'll talk to somebody, a guy on the phone, for a couple of weeks or maybe 5 minutes. I've been on the phone for 5 minutes with a guy, I knew right away, nope. One guy he smoked, he chain smoked, and I just knew I'm allergic to smoke. So this ain't gonna work out. And he's like, I stopped smoking. Like, yeah, that's flattering, but no, that's your lifestyle. I'm not trying to change you.
Exactly.
Where I was talking to a guy for 2 weeks, and I have learned because honestly, when I started out, I told God, I don't want to. I just want to do ministry, and I want to look up, and I want my husband there. Well, when he started allowing me to date, it was like after 5 years when I was able to go out on dates. I'm like, this ain't him. God, why are you doing this? And he showed me, he said, I have a principle of sowing and reaping. You can't just get a good man out of the world, not help me plant good men. So I learned that if a man gets past me, where he gets my number and where we're talking, it's either I check it out. If I know this isn't marriage, then it's ministry.
Oh, that's good. That's
So,
really good.
and men listen to you when you're not in a relationship with them. I, the very, now this was in my disobedience. So God will still use you when you're disobedient. But for the first 5 years, I didn't go out on a date. It was just totally ministry and me, in the Lord. And so at year 5, I didn't think it was gonna be that long. I'm like, well, I want a date. And this guy had gave me his card. And I was like, Lord, I want to go out, but I still felt like the Holy Spirit was saying no. And I was like, well, it ain't like I'm marrying him. I just want to go on a date. So my first indication that this was I should have listened was I had told him we supposed to be going out at 6 o'clock on Saturday. And I told him I won't be available until after 1 p.m. because I was doing something. Well, he called me at 12 and he was like, well, I know you said you was gonna be busy, but I wanted to talk to you. So right there showed, yeah, he's aggressive. But I still wanted to go out. So I'm on this date, girl. He was so like loud and country. I can tell he wasn't bad looking, but he had that countryness about him. And so he asked me, he asked me what restaurant I wanted to go to. Now to me, it wasn't really upscale, it was Bravo's. Have you ever been to Bravo's before? Okay. So, but I can tell he wasn't used to that.
Okay.
So, when he ordered his soup, I told him it's probably not going to be delivered the way you're used to.
Okay.
So when he got it, it wasn't. And so he chopping it up and he gets mad, got me in here. And he said under his breath, got me in this expensive restaurant, messing around with me. We would have been at McDonald's. So I'm over there eating my little salad and he looked up, oh, I'm sorry. So what that tells me is that he has an anger problem. Because if
Yeah.
you can't hold yourself on the first date,
Yeah.
hold your tongue about some soup, you got anger problems. Then he gets this phone call, and then he was like, "Well, I'm taking you here, I'm taking you there." So possessive. I'm like, I said, "Wait, slow down. You don't even know my last name."
Right.
So then his phone rings, and he on the phone talking loud. People looking at me. It was this. I remember this mother and her daughter. They were over there looking at me like that poor girl. That's how loud he was, and he was just over like dominating. So I was like, "Ooh, Lord, I should have listened," because I kept hearing stalker, stalker. Like
Yeah.
he didn't know boundaries. So I said, "Okay, that revelation of where your treasure is, so will your heart be." So I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, let me be fair." I told him, I said, "Sweetheart, um, I'm gonna say this before the check come,
Right.
but that woman you're looking for, I'm not her." And I told him, I said, "You're hot headed, you're aggressive, um, and I just think I know I'm not right for you." And so it was awkwardly quiet. I didn't know what he was gonna do. He was just looking at me with his mouth open, and I'm like, "Is he going?" But he actually said to me, "Nobody has ever told me that before."
Wow.
And he said, "I'm sorry, and I appreciate you letting me take you out." But I was direct with him. I didn't just tell him that. I explained why, and I
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
nasty. I explained why, and so then I got the revelation what God was saying. My men need help,
Oh.
and as women, we've helped corrupt them.
Oh goodness.
When we don't realize our influence. We actually do have influence for the better or for the worse. So when we start moving them in with our wedding rings, we talk them. I don't have to be married to
So
be a
good.
woman.
Yeah.
When and without jobs, I
Yeah.
don't. 'Cause what we don't realize is a man is wired differently from us.
Yeah.
We're like we birth things, and so
Yeah.
we see potential, but men have to be there. And so we think, oh, he has the potential to do it. But a
Mhm.
man, like, and I learned that from the Boy Scouts. When they got their badges, they had requirements. So if they wanted the badge, they had to do 1 through 12.
Wow.
But we say, I want to be married. And when we move them in, we don't realize, oh, they don't have any, we didn't give them no requirements.
Wow.
So having a vision helps.
Yeah. Having a vision helps.
Yes. And then making it our business to get to know these men and then really staying trusting God and staying true to what we say
Yeah.
we want, or at least making sure
Yeah.
God's guiding us. So
That is really, whew, that when you said that, that made so much sense. When moving that we give them no other choice but to accept us in certain ways, and it's like we take on their lack, and we think that that's okay. And it's just sometimes like, no, we can't just accept. I can't just accept anything. I can't just let you think that everything is okay. If like moving you, like I said, when you move them in, they're wired different. So we're letting them know, like, okay, I don't need that. I don't need this.
yeah,
And like, no, we actually do. We actually do need that. So that hit really different when you said that. So it just made a lot of stuff make sense because you don't realize that that's what you're doing with the male.
mm,
You think that you're like, oh, I'm gonna help them. Like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to. We're supposed to be. We're a help meet naturally, but they have to come. We're help. They have to be established. We're helping the establishment. They're the foundation of everything. So we're coming in. Okay, I will help you assist in what you're doing because
yes,
I'm here to help me. I'm not gonna be like, oh well, let me help you find. You know
yeah.
exactly. Like,
Help you
no,
find
that's not
something to do. They have to actually have something going on, and we step in to help them. But a lot of times
exactly.
we trying to make build a man. You said that, build a man. You know what? I had it was a family member who called me up, and she was complaining about her guy, talking about he took her time card and was withdrawing money and blah blah blah. And I'm like, how did he get your PIN number? And so, because she was also complaining, he ain't worked since he moved in, blah blah blah. What did he? So he didn't have a job when he didn't have a job when he moved in. Okay, so he didn't have a job when he moved in, and then you gave him your time card and gave him the PIN number, and you complaining because he still don't have a job and he took your money. He shouldn't even got that far.
Yeah.
And complaining what? What do you expect him? What do you expect him to do? If he, it's not like you're saying he used to do this.
Right. Right.
He
He
never
was
did.
already doing this.
Yeah. So we expect them to just, well, you need to change. And you see that time and time again. They weren't
Yeah.
practicing that. Or you saw, like, I mean, I even know a girl who gosh, her guy stopped working, but he was always complaining about work. To me, when a man is complaining about, or anybody always complaining about working, they don't like to work.
Yeah.
So if your vision is that you want your husband to work, don't accept nobody who complaining about working. Because as soon as they get comfortable and feel like, oh, I'm gonna be taken care of, you on your own. You're gonna be taking care of all of y'all.
Exactly. Exactly. Ooh. Hmm? Yeah.
So, so was there anything you wanted to add to this why women get played before I conclude this?
Well, no, well, yes. So what I wanted to add is women, I mean, we touched on quite a few things of why women get played. And I think understanding that getting played is not the end all be all. And we should not harden our hearts to the idea of love because we did get played, but to take that heartbreak or those moments and again constantly grow and know that this is all a part of your story. We are flawed people. We were born in sin, shaped in iniquity. So a lot of people are not built. We're all not built to be perfect. So there are going to be moments where you're going to get played. Even if you look into relate friendships, you're going to get played. So we take that and again grow from it and allow ourselves to be okay with that was just a moment, a time in history, but those moments do not define me as a woman.
Okay.
And I'm not, if I was once out here wild, doesn't mean that God can't create me to be a wholesome woman. So I'm not going to take one part of my life and say, well, this is what I've been through, this is who I am, or this is, I allow a man to play me, or I guess I'm just not good enough. But actually taking and saying, you know what, I'm going to learn from it, I'm going to grow from it, and I'm going to be better. And just even getting played and knowing, again, that's a part of your story. And we are one by the, what, how does the scripture, I know we were just talking about that recently, we are one by the words of our testimony in Revelations, I believe. So we go through that, we have to have that test so we can be better for the next generation and the next generation. So just knowing and not allowing being played to stop you, but knowing that it's, everybody at some point in time in life will get played.
Yeah, and I would even go another further to say that because of our fallen state,
Yes.
we naturally go off of instinct. So there are tons of dogs in the world, unfortunately, dog-like spirit.
Yeah.
It's so that's normal.
Yeah.
Normal, and not to feel like and this is why you got to you need to make sure, when you're sitting down, before I render my heart over and start allowing my heart to be carried away, let me just check it out and make sure this is a safe place.
Yes.
You start there to say it's nothing personal. This is just the nature of our fallen world.
Mhm.
And just, we have to sift through good and evil. We have to sift through it. Now with us believers, we have help, the Holy Spirit. And unfortunately, if you don't think you need the Holy Spirit, you usually end up with a dog, or you end up with a good man that you treat like a dog. Hey, Rock family. You know, sometimes certain topics can trigger old emotions. So, if at any point during this head trauma discussion season you feel you need to talk to someone, please do. And for some reason, if you do not have access to a trusted source, feel free to check out some of our recommendations by visiting www.rockwithmenow.com. Once at the homepage, select the Rock Challenges tab, and then filter through the list available to see what may possibly suit you. Hope you enjoyed today's show. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you.